Baro here, the Void Trader, sells a lot of weapons. In fact, some of the best weapons in the game come from Baro. Supra Vandal, Ignis Wraith, Prisma Gorgon. But he also sells some weapons that don't see as much popularity. For example, the Mastery Rank 8 Prisma Angstrum. And today we're going to be diving deeper into this secondary weapon. As always, my name is Leyzar, and I got a couple of builds laid out for you. Something cheap, something affordable that anybody can build, but of course we also have the quote-unquote endgame setup with a Riven. Now that said, please keep in mind that my builds and guides take a new player friendly approach. I like to take my time and explain a lot of the aspects that veteran players should already be accustomed to. So in case you're a vet, please bear with me. And with that out of the way, let's jump into the Prisma Angstrum. Let's begin by taking a look at how the weapon handles without any mods equipped, and for that we're just going to be taking a couple of free shots. The Prisma Angstrum is a secondary rocket launcher, and you have two options when firing the weapon. You can either quick tap, which will fire a single rocket. This one actually has some accuracy to it. Or what you can do is fully charge the weapon, and you're going to be releasing the entire magazine. So you can do something like build magazine capacity in order to get a whole lot more rockets. It's doable, it's viable if you want to go that way. Now the rockets upon impact will detonate, of course, and they will be creating about a 5-meter wide explosion, which deals, yes, blast damage. Yay, blast damage. But anyway, small magazine size, only 3 by default, and you can also notice the 18 ammo reserves. If you want to increase this, you can use something like carrier together with ammo case. Now let's jump into stats to see precisely what we're dealing with. Mod capacity 60 out of 60, and if your Prisma Angstrum has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install the Auto King Catalyst. Now this one can be obtained primarily from Nightwave, but you can also pay 20 plat to have one installed. Sometimes it appears on alerts and invasions after dev streams, and you can also get a blueprint from the daily sortie if you're very lucky. The actual drop chance is stupid low. But anyway, my weapon has been formatted a total of 6 times, but I only do this because I have a whole bunch of mod combinations to test out. For the weapon build I'm recommending you guys, you can get away with 4. Simply plug in 4 V symbols or Madurai. Accuracy of the weapon 26.7, which is more than respectable, but unfortunately that one applies only to you firing a single rocket. If you're gonna empty the entire magazine, well, it becomes a different story. Take a look at that. The accuracy basically vanishes, so bear that one in mind. Oh, it gets worse with multishot too, but more on that later. Critical chance of 18% with a base critical multiplier of 2.2x. Now the base critical multiplier is above average. That is a pretty good critical multi. And you might say that 0.2 extra, the normal critical multiplier would be something like 2.0. is not a big deal, but it is a big deal because this is base critical multiplier, and all of the mods that we're going to be applying to increase that will be applying to the base. So therefore, if you have a higher base, your end result after slapping on all the mods like Prime Target Cracker, for example, will be a whole lot higher as well. A fire rate of 2, magazine of 3, noise boom boom, and a reload of 1.8 seconds. Also, we gotta factor in the charge rate of 0.6, but that one is a bit optional. Again, you can fire a single rocket if you wish, or you can go for the whole magazine. Riven disposition 4 out of 5, which means 2 things. 1, the weapon is not very popular, and 2, we're gonna be able to get fantastic Rivens for the Angstrum. Huge amount of stats on them. Status chance of 59.5%, but this one is a bit tricky. The status chance of a single rocket is actually about 23%. This one applies to you firing your entire magazine. Now the info is over on the wiki, and yes, it is just a little bit fuzzy, so just go with it. Blast damage on the weapon by default 1350. Now, once again, according to the wiki, this is the highest base damage of all secondary weapon, and it's tied with the normal version of the Angstrum. And that is fantastic, but unfortunately, once again, it is blast damage. Not ideal. But let's jump into a standard build and see how the weapon handles. And we got damage with Hornet Strike, a whole lot of multi-shot with Barrel Diffusion, as well as Lethal Torrent, plus the additional benefit of the fire rate. In this case, fire rate means that my charge rate will be going down to 0.38. Next we got critical chance, critical damage with Pistol Gambit, as well as Target Cracker, plus the Corrosive Elemental combo that I made with the 90 mods, not the 60/60s, Convulsion as well as Pathogen rounds. Now in the case of the Angstrum, I would go straight for the 90 mods, as the base status chance is high enough, and also going for the 90 mods will mean a whole lot more damage on the actual explosion. Now it's also true when dealing with heavily armored targets, it doesn't really matter how big your explosion is, since your damage will be mitigated by a percentage, so bear that one in mind. Also bear in mind that the elemental combo should be applied depending on your own circumstances. Where are you going and who exactly are you shooting? Now I got corrosive on the weapon because I'm gonna be shooting corrupted heavy gunners, and against them corrosive is the way to go. But for example, maybe you're going down to the Gas City rework and all whatnot. Or maybe even Fortuna, build straight up Toxin or build gas against Corpus units. Most of the time, keep in mind that some of these Corpus units underneath their shields have alloy armor, so it might be worth building radiation in some cases. If you're going to fight the infested, I wouldn't worry too much about them. Straight up heat will be more than enough to deal with most infested units. Though it is worth mentioning that the elite units of the infested, stuff like Ancient Healer Eximus or something like that, are equipped with a type of armor that is vulnerable to corrosive damage as well. And we also got one more mod slot open. Now I like to call this the option slot. Plug into this one whatever you feel comfortable with. For example, maybe you want to go for some magazine capacity. Why the hell not, at the end of the day? You can go for something like Ice Storm, which will give you 40% magazine capacity and plus 40 cold. Now the cold will add another element to the proc table, so it is worth bearing in mind. You can go for Auger Pack for a bit of additional damage as well. Not a bad idea. And you can also go for Magnum Force. Now, you might say, considering the accuracy of the weapon, it doesn't really matter if I slap on Magnum Force because the accuracy is terrible anyway. And that is true, but keep in mind that the Angstrum can deal damage to you, and with Magnum Force you might be shooting straight and actually hitting your feet. So I would advise caution when it comes to Magnum Force. Now here's another good idea. Fulmination, and this one will improve the blast radius of secondary launcher weapons by 24%. Now in all honesty, it doesn't make a huge difference, but it is a difference, and you get this one from the Plague Star event, which is currently going on. What I'm gonna be doing for the initial test is just going for some flat damage with Auger Pact, and this will be your cheapo standard build. Nothing here is expensive, all of these mods are farmable quite easily. Now Lethal Torrent, you might not have this one. You can get this one from, what was it, Nightmare Missions, guys, or you can buy it from the trade chat for roughly 10 plat, give or take 5 plat. Now let's test out the weapon. We're gonna be spawning in Corrupted Heavy Gunners level 120, but before I go, let me check. Make sure I don't have anything that would skew the test. Now we're good. Perfect. Now this is the second mini rocket launcher I test, and to be honest, the Cool Star wasn't really that impressive, so I'm hoping this one will do a bit of a better job. And what I'm going to be doing is launching all of the free rockets, but if I go one by one, I no longer fire a single rocket. Take a look at this. Once again, I am firing in a pattern simply because I got multi-shot on the weapon, and from, what was this? From my target. 13 meters away from my target, and I wasn't able to land a single rocket on these guys. That is how bad the accuracy of the weapon is. And to be honest, I don't think it's warranted. I mean, take a look at the damage. It doesn't deal that much damage. It doesn't do anything fantastic. I unloaded basically everything I had in my ammo reserves, and I just did 50% on a Corrupted Heavy Gunner. Honestly, I don't understand why he keeps this weapon in the dark like this. It simply doesn't do that much to deserve these usability issues. Yes, let's call them like that. And I think, my friends, that is pretty much it for standard performance. Honestly, the weapon is a bit underwhelming, to say the least. But let's jump into a Riven setup. We got the Riven dispo, 4 out of 5, so surely we can make something out of the weapon, and what I got is a Angstrum Visi Critican. Now this one has damage, critical chance and multi-shot. Honestly, it's a pretty good roll, and my critical chance goes to 77% with a critical multiplier of 4.6 thanks to Prime Target Cracker, and of course we're going to be using Prime Pistol Gambit as well. Now I switched 160-60 mod in instead of the 90 mod because I would have to forma one more time, and damn it, I'm just not doing it anymore, at least not for this weapon. One more time, Corrupted Heavy Goons level 120, and this time we're gonna shoot from above just so you can see how much area you can cover with the Prisma Angstrum, and honestly that is pretty impressive. The amount of damage that the weapon deals now with prime mods and a pretty good Riven is quite considerable. I mean, take a look. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful, isn't it? And again, Rivens for the Prisma Angstrum currently are considered trash. So if you want to buy one, you can get one for like 20 plat, something along those lines. Most people simply dissolve them or fuse them to make other Riven mods. Now I'll be honest here, there are still a lot of usability issues when it comes to the weapon, but that doesn't mean it can deal a whole lot of damage. Now there's one more thing which I usually do, bump up everything with Warframe buffs, and for that we're gonna be grabbing the ever so lovely Lady Mirage Prime. Now let's have a quick look at her buffs. We're going to be using Pistol Lamp for 27% extra damage for the Prisma Angstrum. Now this will apply to the base damage of the weapon, which remember is 1350. Now these Amporas usually honestly are not worth it. You can go for something like Corrosive Projection against Grenier, which is always a better idea, but a pistol amp or a shotgun amp or whatever amp will grant its benefit regardless of your target. For example, maybe in the same mission you're going to be having something like Corpus, and then you're going to be having Grenier, and so on and so forth. As for arcanes, we're going to be double stacking Arcane Avenger R3. Now you farm this beautiful arcane from the third Eidolon down on Cetus. It's 30% critical chance boost bonus additive after, so it simply stacks on top of what I already have. It doesn't take into account the base critical chance of the weapon. So in this case, double stacking these will get me 60% critical chance on top of my 77, that's 137% total critical chance. Link in the cards right now for a full tutorial on arcanes. Now one more time, these corrupted heavy goons, and this time we're gonna be unpausing them so they can hit me and I can get me buffs. Mirage's free ability for a massive damage increase as well as her lovely clones. And now you will see that the Angstrom just went full-blown monster. Absolutely freaking fantastic. I love launcher weapons, honestly I do. I love these rockets that can blow everything to Kingdom Come. But let's be honest here, Mirage is buffing everything by a huge amount, and the accuracy of the weapon honestly is a pain in the arse. I don't get it. It doesn't deal so much damage that it needs to be hindered in such a way, dear D. Can we at least have a bit of accuracy so we can go for headshots? If you know how critical chance and critical damage works in Warframe, you know that going for headshots is vital on any critical weapon. But with the Angstrom, I can barely do that. And I think that is pretty much it for this review. The Prisma Angstrum, from my objective point of view, is a weapon you can skip, unless you want to have a little bit of fun with a rocket launcher. But of course, fun is subjective. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoy the content. If you got any feedback for me, I would love to read it in the comment section down below. Also in the comment section down below if you want to suggest a particular weapon review or versus. Now, in all honesty, I can't exactly promise you that it will be done by next time or even within a week, because these things can take a bit of time to put together, but I can promise you that I will be reading through each and every comment. You can also find me on Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, all the usual places. Until next time, my friends. Bye bye!